mortgage loan originator, and I have a startup. It's called Moonshot Financial. Now, in this company, I want to actually be able to help a lot of people who can't get loans to buy their first homes to be able to achieve that goal. So fundamentally right now I'm asking myself a lot of questions because I am one of those people who really need help. So I just try to understand honestly, what is preventing young people, millennials, from getting their first home? Let's just really take everything, let's be honest with ourselves. It's a really hard and difficult market. It's a lot of competition. We're talking about a lot of people who go to a great university with a lot of student loans. That is a real serious problem. But you look at today's market, it's almost like there is this huge division between the reality of more and more people having student loans, and then the lenders are essentially not quite interested in lending to anyone who has like a high balance sheet with student loans unpaid. That's one issue. So essentially, we're talking about lawyers, doctors, and medical school students, basically law school students, or any of those graduates, and also people who perhaps went to business school. All those people, like when you're in college, you would dream about going to a lot of these graduate school programs, or any of the other graduate school students who aren't really able to find a job and pay off a lot of their loans quite very quickly. So it's like you're stuck in a really difficult place where when you're in college, you're dreaming about going to grad school, and after you go to grad school, you have this really huge amount of student loans that's crushing your dream about achieving American dream. And then at the same time, it's almost like I literally create this company in order to solve my own problem, because I don't want to be one of those people who stop dreaming and stop trying to, when you're in college, you want to change the world. You want to do something essentially is going to be good for the world in many ways. But when you get into the situation, you realize, well, my loans are crushing me, and I have to really now be a lot more myopic. I mean, there's a reason why a lot of the law school graduates decide to get into corporate law, because that's the easiest way for them to get money, essentially, and then they are able to pay off their loans, and then only after that will they be able to get their first house. I'm really now thinking, is there a possible different approach? Is there any chance that we say this doesn't matter? Because there's got to be a system that actually can really essentially create a third way out, because you can't have more and more people who have very different reality than what the banks are willing to lend. I called a lot of banks. We're talking about Bank of America. We're talking about, some of the really, banks who say that they really favor entrepreneurs, like First Republic, a lot of banks, right? And had a lot of hard conversation with them. And essentially the answer is, we're looking for people who basically, if they're buying a house, we're looking for people who have different, balance sheet situation. We want them to have a debt to income ratio that are very low. It essentially, most likely they want to look for 30-something% or below 40%, something like that. That's the back end. What does it mean? It means your student loans plus the house you want to buy. Now, you think about it. A lot of the students after graduation, they go to big city. If you are going to New York, San Francisco Bay Area, or if you're going to Chicago, can you legitimately find a house that is actually, let's say, 300K in those areas? And still, let's say if you are let's just really think very strategically, right? If you're a doctor and you are how much money do you have to make if you live in San Francisco Bay Area, and then have like about $250,000 or even 300K, 400K of student loans, because it just keeps going up, right? Every year it keeps going up. For the first few years, your student loan is probably not being paid quite quickly because you are in residency. Now, in those kind of situations, what do? A lot of people decide that they're going to go to a smaller city in an area where it might be not their first choice, but they're able to make enough money and pay off their loans, and standard of living is a little lower. But what if you're not a doctor? What if you're actually a person who needs to, let's say if you're a lawyer. Law schools are expensive. Not everyone goes to Harvard Law, right? A lot of people, like even if you go to Harvard Law, that's still a lot of student loans. So what if you don't want to get into corporate law because there are only so many people who can get into the top law firms in those areas, in a top law firm in a big city? If you're not making a lot of money, but your student loan is keep going up, again, even after you declare bankruptcy, apparently you're not able to get that off, your shoulder. What do? Are you going to postpone getting your dream of having a house, having a family, or do you just postpone everything? Because as a lawyer, if you're living in the middle of nowhere, there are going to be fewer clients. And if you have fewer clients, you're less likely to pay back your loans, right? What do? So I'm just thinking really hard about these issues. And I think there's got to be another way. And so I'm actually asking a lot of you guys out there, is there going to be an interest? Because I'm actually really now thinking out of the box. Perhaps there is a different way where you don't have to take all the time to pay off your student loan first. And there's got to be a way for you to actually both be able to pay your student loans and don't have to have that on your debt to income ratio, and still be able to afford a house. And at the same time, allow you to live in those more interesting areas where you want to be, and still be able to afford a house either there or somewhere else where you can basically be able to catch up with the rising cost of buying a house and all these your achieve your American dreams. So besides student loans, another issue is the cities are becoming more and more crowded. They're going to be, every single year, there are going to be a lot of people graduating, going to, flooding into the big cities. And there's only so much space you can build up. That means you're going to have the housing market, even if the income is not rising as much, a lot of areas, economically, it just doesn't make sense, right? The cost of buying a house keeps going up when the rental might actually be still relatively stable. So if you think about a lot of areas, I mean, it's actually, let's talk about New York and Chicago, Los Angeles, and Bay Area again, San Francisco Bay Area. It's actually more expensive to buy a house, and a lot of places also have pretty large houses. For instance, Bay Area, if you're talking about not San Francisco, but the Bay, South Bay, most of the houses that don't have to pay ridiculous amount of HOA fees are, above 700K at the current moment. So that means it's actually quite expensive to buy in those areas because you're only one person. If you haven't yet expanded your family, not yet ready to get married, but you want to buy a house, you're actually looking for like a 700K to $1 million house. And if you're looking at, down payment is a very sizable down payment, it's actually sort of making very little sense to actually buy a house, live in it if you don't rent it out. But if you rent it out, currently the expectation is if you buy a house and rent it out, you can't yet have that income, that the rental income can't yet be put on your income. there's got to be another way. Okay, so let me know, guys. I'm really, really interested in knowing. I really, I want to create a company to solve this particular problem, because we can't afford to have the next generation postponing their dreams of settling down, or even changing the location of where they normally would love to settle down, simply because the cost of buying a house, or like the ability to buy a house, even if they have the money, sometimes like the debt to income ratio is crushing them, because the banks wouldn't be interested in lending to them. So this is pretty much a company that doesn't, this is a kind of solution that doesn't yet exist. So I'm interested in knowing what are the real problems, because we know if we understand the problems, we might be able to find a solution. So I am going to basically collect all the insights from everybody. And then I would love to go out and find every possible solution, and then test it out and see what are the realms of the legal, within the legal realm. There's got to be some creative ways to solve the problem and help people to achieve their dreams. So let me know. You have, okay, I should actually write down, okay, go to my website, and you should be able to find me. Actually, I should put it here. Should I? Okay. So my email is grace@moonshotfinancial.com. Contact me if you want to just vent, right? Tell me what your issue is. I want to know as much as possible what are the actual issues, and I do have a few ideas. I think I'm going to talk about that in the future. A few ideas potentially how we can solve this problem, and I'm very, very curious to know what are the issues that people are facing. And again, I'm one of those people, and sample number one, right? I want to actually have a bigger sample size so that I can try to create a solution that can maybe meet your expectations. And let me know. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.